Welcome, boys and girls. Costin here with a discussion about Total War Warhammer 3 Immortal Empires and the core issues of the game and specific faction issues that do exist in the game. Now, my focus is going to be on the campaign side of things, though, of course, there are plenty of issues with battles, there's issues with multiplayer, there's issues with game performance that I do think Creative Assembly should work on. But I'm going to focus on the campaign. If people have feedback, please share it. Please talk about it on Reddit. Point these things out. Maybe make a list on battle issues, various bugs and glitches that people do notice. No one person can figure this out on their own. So with that in mind, here's what I've done so far. I've spent several hours working on this already. Right now I'm recording it at 8 a.m. By the time the video is uploaded at roughly 9, I'm going to try that at least. This will be updated, hopefully, and I'll keep adding onto it. I'll keep working on this. So, work in progress at this point. But anyway, core Total War issues. The biggest one is the developer team resources. So, the people that are working on Warhammer 3 seem under-resourced and stuck wrestling with decade-old code. Less about the engine, more about the code. And you can sense that strain in every patch. Good intentions from the developers, but just not enough people with the knowledge to wrestle with that code. It's less that the guys working on it don't know what they want to do. It's more about capacity and knowledge about how to work with the code. They just don't have the firepower. Second issue, patch frequency. Updates come too slow and land empty. When we do finally get patches and hotfixes, they feel surface deep, and a lot of core issues do linger for years. The Beastman AI situation, the current Kislev supporter system, especially with Katrin Kastaltin, Warriors of Chaos recruitment bugs, for instance, and patches do create problems that rarely get cleaned up. An example I can give of this is Skulltaker's campaign start is not great. It's just been left there for almost a year by Creative Assembly without fixing it. Luster in general is a major problem that Creative Assembly has done very little to improve on. Furthermore, campaign flow. All the tension in a campaign is very front-loaded. The early game is where the challenge lives, but also where the grind is the worst. It's where the repetition is the worst. Playing a campaign normally just punishes you with a tedious slog of an endgame. So you're encouraged to abuse cheese, to avoid that, but that kills pacing and makes every campaign feel the same by turn 40. Siege battles, the design punishes you for playing intelligently and again rewards cheese. You either waste turns building equipment or you slam into the walls the moment you arrive. Realistically, you don't even end up being able to build siege equipment because by the time you have built siege equipment, more likely than not, in a lot of cases, they will just attack you on the end turn if you're trying to build siege equipment. There's no middle ground on that, no rhythm, just slog, abusing map design, and AI. Auto-resolve, fairly broken in logic and balance, so field battles are much easier to win for auto-resolve unless the AI cheats with faction potential. The results are tied to the battle difficulty settings rather than your army strength or the strength of the different armies involved. The system also overvalues armor and melee stats, so we get punished if we use different armies. Like, you can think of demons. Like, if you're playing Khorne, you want Chaos Warriors and Chosen as opposed to using Bloodletters just because of the auto-resolve situation. Same with Skaven, same with other factions. And it punishes attacking settlements, which are the worst fights in the game, while rewarding you for auto-resolving field battles. That's completely upside down to what it should be. Formatting issues, I'll work on that improvement, work in progress very much so. Late game, the difficulty curve's broken, so early games have that tension, late game's a slog, end game crises barely register, victory conditions are a chore, the challenge just disappears long before the finish line due to all the AI issues and lack of scalability for the AI. There's no meaningful automation that we can have to ease the grind, no way to preset ideal building patterns or hero leveling paths, among other things. And add to that the strict climate situation that strangle expansion in a lot of campaigns, and you're left with a situation where you're your campaign is over because of boredom without any real meaningful challenge past a certain point. Map design, too many areas of the campaign map are just very cramped, very chaotic. Major AI factions just waste their entire campaign just fighting each other over small portions of the map while you just annihilate everything in your path because you know how to do it. Specifically, areas like Kislev, Cathay, Bretonnia, and every single jungle in the game are especially bad. Bad provinces, messy layouts, broken pathing, bugs, glitches, etc. Lack of campaign customization. Campaign customization is not a solution to anything, but it could help smooth over the rough edges of Warhammer 3. Though I think those core issues do need to be resolved. Then we have AI behavior. The AI on the campaign map, the AI is very reactive, and also in battles, focusing on exploiting immediate weaknesses, flanks, undefended settlements, rather than thinking about strategy or tactics. So it's either going to rush and get a lot of people killed, entire armies killed, or it just is paralyzed. Its handling of recruitment and heroes and lords is also very poor. Now, what CA could do on this is they could add a wounded mechanic for generic lords from level 1 in a campaign, maybe and maybe higher ranks, any hero rank, lord ranks, past like turn 5, turn 10. Diplomacy. It's more about exploiting the AI behavior than fostering natural relationships that lead to wars, alliances, vassalization. What I think you should have with diplomacy is that relationships should feel more dynamic with an expanded allegiance system and a more active interactive system across the board. Confederations should feel like natural outcomes of diplomacy. The dwarves, for instance, are the gold standard in this, the whole Great Book of Grudges. It should be scalable in the campaign with Confederation, offering flexibility. You should be able to achieve fast confederations. You should have slow confederations, depends on the situation, what you're dealing with. With respect to DLC, high prices, long development time, lack of story, cinematics, dialogue, and choices for in that story. And when they introduce Legendary Lord, Skulltaker is the best example. They don't account for the current dynamics of an area. So Skulltaker, Ion Bow, others are a problem. From a community and creator problem perspective, updates feel sporadic, lackluster communication from CA. The developers often don't grasp what players actually mean when they flag problems, same with content creators. There's no anchor, no single person who truly understands everything about the game and can translate between developers and players. What the community could really use is a dedicated developer or a team of developers with deep knowledge of the game, its code, to actively engage with players daily, translating feedback and fostering better communication. Specific faction issues, this is very much the work in progress aspect. So I've covered 3 factions here, well, 4 technically. Rule of thumb with regards to factions is that research, building tiers, unit and hero tier requirements, economy and climate are just the obvious things that any faction, any legendary lord, any race does need improvement on. But talking about specific races, Beastmen I would consider a high priority for Creative Assembly to work on. They struggle because of limited armies and early game unit caps that create a very slow campaign progress while you just end up steamrolling the late game. Dread is overused for everything. Everything in a Beastmen campaign except some items you get and the buildings that use money is just using Dread. It works, but it's just not a great system because you don't have enough. And some things are just much better than others. So I think we need multiple resources for Lizardmen. Individual Legendary Lords lack unique mechanics except for Tarok. So basically all Lizardmen Legendary Lords feel the same to play from that perspective, especially because you can confederate all of them across the world rather easily, actually. Beastmen AI is non-functional. Solutions for that. So scalability of army sizes and more early game unit caps. So more armies, maybe an extra army early on for Beastmen, more early game caps for basic units especially, diversify resources, do not rely solely on Dread, give each Legendary Lord unique mechanics, fix the passive AI. The problem though with fixing that is that Beastmen can be especially annoying to deal with early on in a campaign. I'll be updating this list, again, work in progress, but early on. So maybe what could work with Beastmen is they do what they do right now. They only have one army in the campaign, at the beginning of campaign, and they are limited, but then they can get extra armies, higher caps, the AI specifically. So, Taurox is not just demolishing everything in his path from turn 1, but after a couple of turns, he starts doing that, for instance, right? So more passive AI early on for a couple of turns, but then things work. By the way, Malachi is also very broken in this respect, just speaking about that. Bretonnia, highest priority. The campaign map with Bretonnia is just too many provinces in Bretonnia with just 2 regions, overcrowded with so many major factions. The Confederation mechanic, it requires research on minor factions that are almost always destroyed before you can confederate with the major lords. The vow system is very tedious and grindy and needs automation or simplification. The chivalry meter is just completely pointless. Rewards come too late in the campaign with a weak final errant reward. Lack of unique legendary lord mechanics, that's going to be a running theme. Lords feel too similar, lack distinct mechanics, lack of strong infantry and range units. Just cavalry alone doesn't work. You have heroes, you have cavalry, you have artillery, but you really need at least a core infantry roster. Bretonnia does have infantry. The problem is that can end up being good, but it's either too high tier or it requires dozens of turns building armory. So that whole thing with armories giving armor to infantry units just not good. Solutions to this: automate and simplify the vow system, remove upkeep penalties for lords without vows, improve the confederation system to allow better access to major legendary lords, revamp chivalry to be inspired by WoW but better, active progression, meaningful rewards. So take the WoW mechanic, improve the WoW mechanic, give us actual rewards worth doing a WoW, because right now with Greenskins the WoW is not worth it, but still. Redesign the campaign map of Bretonnia to reduce faction overcrowding and give Bretonnia more room to expand. Rework economic building requirements, research trees, lord and hero skill trees, reduce infantry tiers. So you should be able to recruit a lot more stuff with Bretonnia early on. So we have a tier 4 infantry that should really be tier 2 or tier 3 at worst. Fix legendary lord requirements, introduce item requirements, introduce unique mechanics for each lord, like Lewin's requirements, for instance, or Albrecht's requirement for his item, like, oh, go for Sartosa, that's annoying. Cast Dwarves, they're a medium priority, but I think they're also complex race. Like, I'm just taking factions in order, by the way, not any favorites or anything like that. Unit caps, limit variety, economy grows slowly, but then becomes unstoppable. You add to the core inverted difficulty curve. Confederation and Conclave mechanics feel redundant. By the time they're unlocked, the faction is already nearly unbeatable. Lack of unique mechanics for legendary lords. Zaytan's starting area negatively impacts his campaign in a very major way. Now, in terms of fixing the situation with the Cast Dwarves, they could raise the initial unit caps for basic units, improve the early game material production and armament production, reduce costs for main settlement buildings, all these kind of things, right? As for the Demon Prince, he is beyond redemption. The amount of work that it would require to fix the Demon Prince, I just don't think it's worth it. And I do believe that while it would be good to have a good Demon Prince campaign, there are bigger priorities. So it would require a complete rework of the entire faction. At the moment, I would just say it's probably best to just remove the AI faction from the game, just free up space for Epidemius and Boris Ursus to deal with their own things. Of course, there's many other issues, many other campaigns, many other problems, and I'll be working on adding those things to this list. Costin signing out. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and enable notifications, and stay tuned for more.